So at this point, you've been to the first lesson. You learned about variables, you learned about 2D and 3D coordinate systems, how Minecraft is a world in 3D, and of course you learned how to spawn mobs. That's awesome. Now it's time for you to actually write some code. So let me give you some tips and tricks to make writing code more efficient. When coding, I usually don't touch my laptop's touchpad or the mouse. There's no need unless I want to run the code. So again, to run the code, you right click and then you click on run main. But if I'm dealing with a program that is only 20 lines long, I don't need to use the mouse unless maybe, yeah, if there's more lines, sure, you can scroll up and down. But again, 20 lines, not big of a deal. And I can minimize this to see more of the code. So what are some of the tricks that I use to make coding more efficient? One, I don't just go left like this or right one by one. What I do is I hold control to jump over words, all right? So jump over zombie completely, jump over ID, right? So if I want to go, if I'm over here and I want to get there, I just hold control and then press the arrow key. Let's say I want to delete spawn entity. I would hold control and click backspace. It's going to delete the entire word. I'm going to do Control Z to bring it back. Okay, so Control Z undoes the last thing that you did. So for example, if I remove this parentheses and I go somewhere far, and if I do Control Z twice, it's going to bring back that parentheses. So you can keep clicking Control Z to go back to a previous state. Now, that was control, holding control. Now, what if we hold shift and we go left? We can see that I'm selecting a word. Okay, and I can keep going, and if I press the up key, I'm gonna select lines of code, all right? And if I let go of shift and I move with the arrow key, then it's gonna unselect everything. Now, you know how to select now, and you know how to jump over a word. What if I want to select the entire word? What I would do is I would control, shift, and move. So I hold control, I hold shift, and I go to the left. Or I go to the right? And like that, I can select lots of things quickly. Now, if I want to copy this entire line, spawn entity spider, right? Now, with the mouse, again, don't use the mouse. Don't do this. No need to do this. What I would do is I would hold shift, go up, and go right. Okay, and this selects the line. I can click on Control C and Control V. Okay, and then I'm gonna, so from here to select the top 3 lines, I'm gonna press shift and go up, go up, go up, and then I can delete them by clicking on backspace. Another thing I do is, let's say I'm in front of the word. Let's say I want to delete spawn entity, but instead of Control Shift and going right and then clicking backspace, what I can do is I can do Control Delete. So delete is on the top of your keyboard. It's right above the backspace. Backspace deletes what's to the left of the cursor. Delete deletes what's on the right of the cursor. Okay? And by doing by doing Control Delete, you're deleting the entire word to the right. Okay? Let's say I did Control Z right now. And Control Z removed my dot, because at some point I had removed the dot. What if I want to undo the Control Z? I'm going to do Control Shift Z. So Control Z goes back in time. Control Shift Z goes forward in time. So if I do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and now if I do Control Shift Z, it's going to undo everything that just happened. Another useful thing is when you want to select everything in the file, you're going to do Control A. A stands for all. So you're going to select all. And then you can do, let's say, Control X to cut. Then you can open a new file, let's say, and Control V in that new file. Another thing to know is, let's say I want to read. So as I told you guys, this is a function, right? Spawn entity is a function. What is a function? It's just some piece of code that does something. And that is, in this case, it was written by someone else. So how do I check what is inside spawn entity? I will hold control on my keyboard and click on spawn entity. And then I go to the definition. Now, we don't really care about this right now. Where this is more important is when checking what entities exist. So what we're gonna do, because how do I know this is called creeper, spider, zombie, and what else is out there? What can I import? What can I spawn using Python? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold control and click on entity. And then we have an entire list over here of the mobs that we are able to spawn with Python. And what I would do is I would double click on, let's say, Iron Golem, and by double clicking, it's going to select the variable. I'm gonna click on Control C with my mouse. You can do this with your keyboard, but for now you can just do it with your mouse. So with your mouse, you're gonna go to main, and over here, you're gonna go to, well, you're gonna import basically. So just like that, Iron Golem is here by doing Control V. And now I can start using Iron Golem, enter. And one last thing, let's say you want to have entity and main be two separate windows, like you want to see them at the same time. Select, grab entity and drag it like that, and then you will have them side by side. You want to have them placed like vertically like this, then you can also do that. So just grab the file and move it around and see. You can see like that where it's going to end up. So here it's going to end up on the bottom like that. All right. If you want to bring them back together, just do that and they'll be next to one another. All right. So for now, I'm going to remove entity. And as it turns out, I forgot to teach you guys one last thing. This comment that you see here, I wrote it manually. So I did $sign. This is a whatever comment. What if let me remove this. What if I want to test out this code, but I just want to test out one of the spawn entities. I just want to test out the first spawn entity. I want to see if it works, for example. So I don't want to just delete all of these lines of code, because I can do that. I can delete it or run my code and then press Control Z to bring it back. But what I prefer to do is I prefer to press Control / and that automatically comments out all of this code. So this is called commenting out code. And let's say I run my program, right? I click run and then everything works fine. And then I decide to bring these back and I do the same thing, Control / So let's say I want to comment out this code. I will select them and I will press Control / and it will comment that out. And let's say I just want to comment out one line of code. So then let's say I want to comment out this line of code. Instead of doing this, like this, like manually doing Shift 3, which puts the $sign and then space, instead of doing that, I just go on the line, hold Control and press /. It's going to comment it out and jump to the next line. All right, Control Z to go back. So that's how you comment out one line and multiple lines.